Friends, what you're about to hear sounds impossible, yet it shook an entire hospital in the Middle East. A newborn baby came into this world, but instead of crying, the child began reciting the Azan. Doctors froze, nurses broke down in tears, hospital corridors turned chaotic. Even social media exploded with disbelief, because no one could explain what had just happened. The baby's voice was so clear, so powerful, that one doctor nearly collapsed on the spot. How can a newborn recite the call to prayer? Is this a miracle or something science cannot yet explain? Stay with this video until the very end, because what you're about to witness may completely change the way you see life and faith. If this story intrigues you, give the video a like. If you're new here, subscribe and turn on the bell icon. Let's begin. In the old quarter of Cairo, in a tight-knit neighborhood where everyone knew everyone's joys and pains, lived a man named Ahmed El-Sayed. Ahmed was 35, gentle-eyed, and known for a small grocery kiosk he ran on a quiet street near a local mosque. He opened his shop with the dawn at hand and closed it after the night prayer. His whole life moved in rhythm with prayer times, call to worship, work, gratitude, and sleep. His wife, Fatma El-Masri, 32 years old, kept the home warm despite their emptiness. She was a skilled seamstress who stitched modest dresses and abayas for women in the area. The sound of her sewing machine often filled the apartment, steady, patient, like a heartbeat trying to reassure a house that felt too quiet. But for 15 long years, that home had one absence that echoed louder than anything else. There was no child, no small footsteps racing across the tiles, no laughter bouncing from one room to another, no sleepy voice calling mama or baba. Only silence, sometimes gentle, sometimes cruel. When they first married, they were full of hope. Inshallah, soon, they would say, smiling shyly, dreaming of a crib by the window and a tiny hand gripping their fingers. The first year passed, nothing. The second year, nothing. Then the third, then the fifth. As time moved, hope didn't vanish all at once. It slowly changed shape. It became quieter, more careful. And then, without permission, it turned into fear. At the end of the 5th year, they finally went to a doctor, Dr. Aisha Hassan, a calm and respectful woman known for her kindness. She examined them, ordered tests, and reviewed reports with the seriousness of someone holding 2 fragile hearts in her hands. When the results came back, she looked at them gently and said, "Everything appears normal. There is no clear medical barrier. Be patient, keep faith. Sometimes the decree comes late." They held onto that sentence like a rope in deep water. But 10 years into the marriage, the outside world began to weigh on them. People's eyes lingered. Women whispered at stairwells and over tea. 10 years and still nothing. Maybe it won't happen for them. The worst was at family weddings and gatherings. Everyone would speak proudly about their children. School prizes, first words, the way a son resembled his father, the way a daughter danced at Eid. Ahmed and Fatma would smile politely, nodding as if the conversation didn't slice them open. They learned the art of pretending to be okay. At night, when the lights were off and the neighborhood finally grew quiet, Fatma's strength would collapse. She would press her face into her pillow so the neighbors wouldn't hear, and she would cry until her throat ached. Sometimes she would whisper through tears, "Ya Allah, what is missing in me? Why not us?" They prayed, more than they ever had before. After every salah, their hands rose, palms open, begging without pride. Fatma especially clung to the dawn prayer. After Fajr, she would sit on the prayer mat longer than usual, her eyes wet, her voice barely above a whisper. "My Lord, Grant us a child. Let this house be filled with a child's voice. Let me hear Mama at least once before I die." And then came the 15th year, when even their prayers felt tired from carrying so much longing. They didn't stop believing, but their hope became thin, like fabric worn by too many washes. They started preparing their hearts for a life that might never change. But the decree of Allah often arrives in ways no one expects. In March 2023, Fatima began noticing strange changes in herself. Morning nausea, a sudden sensitivity to the smell of food, a heaviness in her body that felt like exhaustion sitting deep in her bones. For most women, those signs might have lit a bright lantern of hope, but for Fatima, 15 years had trained her to fear expectation. She had felt false alarms before, moments of excitement that ended in heartbreak. So she told herself, "It's nothing. Maybe I'm sick." Ahmed watched her carefully. He noticed her paleness, the way she stopped eating foods she once loved, the way she sat quietly, as if listening to something inside her. One evening, he said softly, "Fatima, please, let's check. Just once, for peace of mind." She resisted at first. Then she agreed, not because she believed, but because she couldn't bear to see worry growing in his eyes. In the first week of April, Fatima returned to Dr. Aisha Hassan. The clinic smelled of antiseptic and quiet hope. Aisha examined her, ordered blood tests, and told her to come back the next day. Fatima barely slept that night. She didn't want to hope, but her heart kept betraying her with small bursts of trembling possibility. The next day, she sat across from Dr. Aisha, fingers twisting the edge of her scarf. Dr. Aisha looked at the results, then looked up with a smile that carried warmth, like sunrise. "Fatima," she said gently, "I have very good news." "What? What news?" Aisha's smile deepened. "You're pregnant. After 15 years, you're pregnant." For a moment, Fatima didn't understand the words. The room blurred, as if reality had stepped back to let something impossible enter. "Me?" she whispered. "Pregnant?" "Yes," Aisha said, voice steady. And then the dam broke. Fatima began to cry, loudly, helplessly. The kind of crying that doesn't care who hears, because it's carrying 15 years of silent pain. She covered her face, but her sobs filled the clinic, as if the walls themselves were finally releasing grief. 15 years of longing, 15 years of unanswered questions, 15 years of trying to be strong. All of it poured out in one shaking flood. When she reached home, Ahmed was waiting like a man who had been holding his breath for a lifetime. The moment she nodded, his knees weakened. He pulled her into his arms and cried, the way men cry only when something breaks open inside them. That night they prayed until dawn. They kept whispering the same words between tears. "Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ya Allah, thank you. Please protect this blessing." From that day, they became careful in a way that bordered on fear. Fatima was 32, and after such a long wait, the pregnancy was considered high risk. A new doctor, Dr. Muhammad Zaki, warned them with a serious face, "This pregnancy is precious. We must be extremely careful." For the first 3 months, they went for checkups almost every week. Fatima moved slowly, ate carefully, and treated her body as if it were carrying something made of glass. And every night, after the 5 daily prayers, she stood again in the quiet hours for tahajjud, hands raised, tears falling, asking Allah not only for a child, but for the chance to hold him alive. At the end of the 3rd month, they heard the baby's heartbeat for the first time, a rapid, steady rhythm. Ahmed pressed his hand to his mouth and cried silently. Fatima stared at the screen as if afraid that blinking might make it disappear. "It's real," she whispered. He's really there. Later at the 5th-month scan, the doctor smiled. It's a boy. Ahmed laughed and cried at the same time, trembling like a man whose dream had finally stepped into daylight. They discussed names for days, turning each one over like precious stones. In the end, they chose Yusuf, hoping their son would grow with the beauty of character and patience that Prophet Yusuf is known for. By the 9th month, the doctor told them, it can happen any time now. They prepared everything: the hospital bag, the baby clothes, the tiny blanket Fatma had sewn with her own hands. Their home, once defined by silence, now felt like it was waiting to breathe. Then came the night of September 27th. At 11:30 p.m., Fatma's pains began. Ahmed's face went pale. "I think it's time," he said, voice shaking. He woke an elderly neighbor, Uncle Hassan, and together they rushed through the quiet Cairo streets toward the hospital, the city lights flickering like anxious prayers. When they arrived, it was past midnight. A midwife named Zainab greeted them, professional, calm, and kind. "How many children do you have?" she asked as she helped Fatma inside. Ahmed's voice broke. "This is our first after 15 years." Zainab's expression softened. "MashaAllah," she said gently. "Allah has granted it. Stay calm. Everything will be fine." Fatma's contractions became steady. The hours crawled forward with pain, breath, whispered du'as, and Ahmed pacing like a man trying to outrun his fear. At 2:30 a.m., the doctor said, "We're going to the delivery room." At 2:45, everything was ready. Mohammed Zaki, midwife Zainab, and a nurse named Aisha stood prepared. "Fatma," the doctor said, "your baby is coming now." Fatma gripped the bed rails, sweat on her brow, lips moving in silent prayer. And then, at exactly 2:47 a.m., the baby entered the world. But what happened next was something none of them could have imagined. For a brief moment after the baby was born, the delivery room fell into an unnatural silence. Normally, a newborn cries instantly, lungs filling with air, life announcing itself with a sharp, desperate sound. But this baby did not cry. 10 seconds passed, then another. Dr. Mohammed Zaki's expression changed. "Why isn't he crying?" he asked sharply, moving closer. Midwife Zainab felt her hands grow cold. Nurse Aisha leaned forward, heart pounding. And then, without warning, a clear, unmistakable voice rose from the tiny newborn's mouth. "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." Time seemed to stop. No one moved. No one breathed. The sound was not weak or broken. It was steady, melodious, pure. It filled the delivery room like a call echoing from a mosque minaret at dawn. Midwife Zainab's hands began to tremble. Tears flooded her eyes. Dr. Mohammed stared at the baby as if the laws of the world had just cracked open in front of him. The newborn continued, "Ashadu an la ilaha illa Allah, ashadu anna Muhammadan Rasul Allah." Nurse Aisha whispered, her voice barely audible, "Ya Allah, what is this?" The sound was impossibly clear, like the voice of an adult muezzin, trained and steady, yet it was coming from the mouth of a child no larger than a loaf of bread. "Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah." Dr. Mohammed had delivered thousands of babies in his career. He had seen complications, rare conditions, moments of fear, and moments of relief, but never anything like this. This is not possible," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Midwife Zainab collapsed into quiet sobs. "This is a miracle," she said through tears. "Wallahi, this is a miracle." The baby completed the Azan. "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah Allah." And then, just as suddenly, the voice faded. The baby let out a normal newborn sound. A soft cry, fragile, human, as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. Dr. Mohammed examined the baby with shaking hands. He checked the throat, the vocal cords, the breathing. Everything was normal, perfectly normal. No abnormalities, he whispered, disbelief thick in his voice. Nothing explains this. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. This cannot be explained by medicine. The head physician, Dr. Salim Farouk, was called immediately. He entered the room with a tired smile. "Is there a problem?" he asked. Dr. Muhammad hesitated. "Sir, the baby recited the Azan at birth." Salim chuckled lightly. "You're exhausted, Muhammad." "I'm not," Dr. Muhammad said firmly. "We all heard it." As if responding to the tension in the room, the baby suddenly made a sound again. "La ilaha illallah." Dr. Salim staggered backward, his smile vanishing. His face drained of color. "This how?" he whispered. Outside, Ahmed paced the corridor, hands clasped tightly, heart racing. When Dr. Muhammad finally stepped out, Ahmed rushed toward him. "Doctor, my wife, my baby?" Dr. Muhammad took a deep breath. "Your wife is fine. Your baby is healthy." Ahmed exhaled in relief, but the doctor wasn't finished. "There is something else," he said slowly. "Something very difficult to believe." Ahmed frowned. "What happened? When your baby was born, he didn't cry." Ahmed's heart skipped. Then he recited the Azan. "Dr. Baird," Muhammad said, beautifully. We all heard it. Ahmed stared at him, confused. What did you say?" "Your son recited the Azan the moment he was born." The words struck Ahmed like lightning. His knees weakened. He grabbed the wall to steady himself. Is that possible?" he whispered. "Normally," Dr. Muhammad replied, "no. But it happened." Tears poured from Ahmed's eyes. He dropped to the floor, forehead touching the cold hospital tiles, surrendering completely. "Ya Rab, what is this blessing?" he cried. "Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Can I see my son?" he asked, voice trembling. In the neonatal unit, Ahmed leaned over the small crib, his heart breaking open at the sight of the tiny face. "My son, my beautiful son," he whispered. The baby stirred, and then softly said, "Allahu Akbar." Ahmed felt his vision darken. "Is this real?" he whispered, gripping the edge of the crib. When Fatma regained consciousness, the first thing she asked was, "Where is my baby?" Ahmed sat beside her, eyes red. "Fatma, I need to tell you something strange." She smiled weakly. "Is he okay?" "Yes," Ahmed said, "but our son recited the Azan when he was born." She frowned. "What do you mean?" Instead of crying, he recited the Azan. Everyone heard it. Fatma began to tremble. "Ya Allah, how was that possible?" When they brought the baby to her, Fatma whispered his name, Yusuf. At the sound of his mother's voice, the baby moved his lips. "La ilaha illa Allah, Muhammadan Rasul, Allah." Fatma covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. "Ya Rab." He's really saying it. That night, neither Ahmed nor Fatma slept. They sat awake, watching their son, their hearts caught between awe and fear. Every time he softly murmured the words of the Azan, they froze, afraid to blink, afraid the moment might vanish. By morning, the hospital was in turmoil. Staff whispered in corridors. Cleaners spoke in hushed voices. "Something strange happened last night," one said. "The baby, he recited the Azan. The head physician called an emergency meeting. "This must not leave the hospital," he warned. "It could cause chaos." But it was already too late. Through staff families, through quiet phone calls and messages, the story leaked outside. By evening, a small headline appeared online. "A miracle in Cairo. Claims of a newborn reciting the Azan." Social media erupted. "Subhanallah. This is Allah's power. Is this real?" WhatsApp groups exploded. Twitter trended. Facebook debates ignited. By the next morning, journalists stood outside the hospital gates. Cameras, microphones. Is it true? Did the baby really recite the Azan? The hospital increased security. Officials refused to comment. Religious leaders spoke carefully. "If true, it is Allah's will," one said. But claims must be verified. Doctors debated. Scientists questioned. Experts argued. Meanwhile, inside a quiet hospital room, Ahmed and Fatma held their son close, overwhelmed, frightened, and grateful. They had waited 15 years for a child. They never imagined they would receive one who would shake the world. By the time Ahmed, Fatma, and their newborn were discharged from the hospital, the situation had already spiraled beyond control. Leaving through the main entrance was impossible. A crowd had gathered outside. Neighbors, curious strangers, people holding phones, whispering prayers, calling the baby the miracle child. Hospital security arranged for an ambulance to take them out through the back gate, not because of any medical emergency, but to protect them from the chaos. Inside the ambulance, Fatma held Yusuf close to her chest. He slept peacefully, unaware that his first days in the world had already turned him into a symbol debated by thousands. Ahmed stared out the window, his mind racing. "We only wanted to be parents," he whispered. "How did it become this?" When they reached their apartment building, they realized the crowd had followed them home. The narrow street was filled with familiar faces from the neighborhood and unfamiliar ones who had traveled from other districts just to catch a glimpse. "Show us the baby. They say he recites the Azan. Is it true?" Ahmed hesitated, then opened the door. He didn't want rumors to grow darker in the shadows. One by one, neighbors stepped inside. When evening came, and the call to prayer echoed from the nearby mosque, Yusuf stirred in Fatma's arms, and then, clearly, softly, he began again. "Allahu Akbar." The room froze. Uncle Hassan, the same neighbor who had driven them to the hospital that night, covered his face and wept. "He's really reciting it," he said. "This is not imagination." From that moment, their home stopped being private. Every day, dozens of people arrived. Some came from nearby neighborhoods. Others traveled from distant cities, Alexandria, Mansoura, even Upper Egypt, guided by nothing but forwarded messages and whispered claims. Ahmed couldn't open his grocery kiosk anymore. Fatma barely slept. Yusuf's routine was disrupted by constant noise, flashes of phones, and strangers crowding too close. The reactions were not all the same. Some people bowed their heads in reverence. "This child is blessed," they said. "Allah has chosen him." Others shook their heads. "This is exaggeration. People want attention." Soon, offers began arriving. A media production company called. "We want to make a documentary. We'll pay well." Ahmed refused immediately. "This is not for sale." An advertising agency contacted Fatma. "We could feature the baby in a commercial. It would be tasteful." Fatma's voice hardened. "My son is not a product." Television channels called daily, requesting interviews, exclusive footage, studio appearances. Ahmed rejected them all. "This is a blessing from Allah," he said, "not a business opportunity." Meanwhile, Cairo University's medical faculty formally requested permission to study the baby. Professor Dr. Ayman Khalid, a respected neurologist, explained carefully, "This phenomenon is significant for science. We want to understand it, not exploit it." After days of prayer and discussion, Ahmed and Fatma agreed. They hoped clarity might bring peace. For a full week, Yusuf underwent examinations, voice analysis, brain scans, genetic testing, developmental assessments. The results confused everyone. His vocal quality was unlike a typical newborn's, but his vocal cords were anatomically normal. His brain showed no abnormal activity. There were no genetic mutations. His development matched his age. Professor Khalid stood before the parents, rubbing his temples. "Your son is healthy," he said slowly, "but his sound production is different. We have no data to explain it." News of the tests only fueled public fascination. International media picked up the story. A miracle baby in Egypt. Newborn recites Azan. Doctors confounded. Reporters from Europe, Asia, and America arrived. Ahmed refused all foreign interviews as well. "We don't want this attention," he repeated. Online, society fractured into two camps. One side declared, "This is Allah's miracle." The other insisted, "It's impossible."
People are being deceived. Arguments raged across social media.
Groups formed. Insults followed. Faith and skepticism collided loudly, while the family sat in silence, exhausted. "This was never our intention," Fatma whispered one night, rocking Yusuf as he slept. "We just wanted a normal life." As months passed, something unexpected happened. Yusuf began reciting the Azan less frequently. At 3 months old, he made more ordinary baby sounds. Some skeptics claimed victory. See, it was fake. Ahmed and Fatma felt relief instead of disappointment. "Maybe we can finally live normally," Ahmed said. But Yusuf was still different. During prayer times, he would hum softly. When the Azan played on the radio, he calmed instantly. He rarely cried. He listened intently when Fatma recited Quran, eyes wide, as if understanding something beyond words. At 6 months, he showed early development, trying to sit, gesturing deliberately, watching faces with unusual focus. And then came the moment that stunned them again. At 12 months old, Yusuf spoke his first word. Not Mama, not Baba. Fatma froze. Her hands trembled. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Ahmed nodded, tears forming. He said Allah. By the time Yusuf turned 2, he could softly repeat short verses, not perfectly, not fully, but clearly enough to leave no doubt. "This child is different," Ahmed said quietly. "Not to make us famous, but to remind us of something." Slowly, the attention faded. The crowds thinned. The arguments moved on to newer distractions. Fatma returned to her sewing. They tried to rebuild the simple life they had once prayed for, but neither of them would ever forget that night. The silence, the first words, and the sound that changed everything. They had waited 15 years for a child. They never expected that child to challenge the world's certainty. Today, Yusuf is 2 years old. He is a healthy, joyful child with bright eyes and a calm presence that surprises everyone who meets him. He runs across the apartment floor, plays with simple toys, and laughs when Ahmed lifts him into the air. To an outsider, he looks like any other toddler. Curious, energetic, full of life. Yet traces of what happened that night have never fully disappeared. Sometimes, without warning, Yusuf softly recites a line of the Azan. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a gentle, clear whisper, as if it rises from somewhere deep inside him. At other times, he simply listens, especially when the Quran is recited. His body becomes still, his eyes focused, his breathing slow, as though he recognizes a sound older than himself. When the call to prayer echoes from the nearby mosque, Yusuf grows calm. No crying, no restlessness, just peace. Ahmed and Fatma no longer speak publicly about what happened. They no longer argue with skeptics or try to convince believers. They have learned that not everything is meant to be proven. We waited 15 years for a child, Ahmed says quietly. Allah gave us one. That alone is enough. Life has returned to a kind of normal. Ahmed opens his grocery shop at dawn again, greeting familiar faces, exchanging quiet smiles. Fatma sits by the window with her sewing machine, stitching clothes as Yusuf plays at her feet. Their home, once filled with aching silence, now carries laughter, footsteps, and small scattered toys. Yet some nights when Yusuf is asleep and the house grows quiet, Ahmed and Fatma sit together and remember. They remember the delivery room, the silence, the voice. They remember how their hearts shook with fear and wonder at the same time. Science searched for answers and found none that fully satisfied. Faith offered meaning, but not explanations that could be measured or tested. The world argued, debated, and eventually moved on. But for Ahmed and Fatma, the lesson remains simple. Miracles are not always sent to be displayed. Sometimes they are sent to heal hearts. Sometimes they are sent after patience has been stretched to its limit. They waited 15 years, believing even when belief felt heavy. And when the gift finally came, it arrived in a form no one could have planned. Whether the world calls it a miracle or an unexplained medical phenomenon no longer matters to them. What matters is this: Allah answered their prayers, not in the time they expected, not in the way they imagined, but in the way He chose. And every time Yusuf smiles, every time he whispers a word that reminds them of that night, they are reminded of one truth they will carry forever. Human plans are small, but Allah's decree is always greater. Friends, this was today's story. What do you think? Was Yusuf's experience truly a miracle? Or could it be a medical phenomenon that science has not yet understood? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart or made you reflect, please give it a like. And for more real, powerful stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next story. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.